Okay. All
Good evening. I'm Jerry McIntosh, and this is Our Voices, the People's Media. This evening, we're going to discuss our topic for the evening is we're going to address the Supreme Court and this new nominee by Donald Trump and what's going to happen in the future. We're going to talk about that and other hot topics. But first, we're going to go to our guest host, Mr. Bill Snow, who is the author of From the Projects to the Boardroom and also a member of Moving for Change. We have Mayor Henry Hawkins, who is also the great mayor of Century. We have Tanine Broughton, who is also a host with us, and our special guest host with us this evening, running for the 18th district in Miami, Florida, Miss Pam Keith,
Okay.
and also Carol McIntosh.
Well, thank you, Jerry. I'm glad you didn't forget me there. But we're so glad to be here once again. We're on every Sunday, whether or not it's Our Voices or it's the community conversations. We are live giving out information and empowering the community. We try to have guests that know what they're talking about and that's passionate, and so that when you finish seeing this show, you will gain some type of knowledge. We are very special. We feel very special to have Pam here tonight because Pam is very knowledgeable and she's going to tell you like it is. She's not going to around. You're going to find out. She's going to tell you how she feels. And that's what we want here on Our Voices. So let's get started here. Let's first start talking about the coronavirus, Jared. Give us an update on that coronavirus.
The coronavirus is, you think about two football field of people, two football stadiums filled with people. That's how many people have passed from this coronavirus, and it's over 7 million infected. But according to the CDC, scientific statistic will tell you that he said for every one count 10. So that means some 70 million people already is infected. And they're, with the governor opening up Florida.
Well,
totally.
That's our next one. But can you give them some the figures that we have so people that actually have the figures of United States figures, Florida's figures, and the Scamias?
Yeah. Well, in Scamia is 228, 12,000 cases of people infected. That the death in Florida, in Pensacola, in the Escambia County, brother. Well, in Florida, the death is 14,202 cases. People that's infected is 700,564 nationwide, 7,171,978, with a death toll of 207,788. So it is a lot of people that is have been taken out by this virus, and these are people, humanity, that is gone only because someone didn't do what they needed to do to protect the community. Hopefully, everybody else is doing fine, and their families and all is doing fine.
Yeah, we talked to on our show last week. Remember, Bill, you were on when we had a young person on the show, and she let me get this. She gave us her viewpoint on the coronavirus and let us know that the young people aren't as afraid of it as we are. And she was telling us about that they're not wearing masks. They don't really care about it. And it was kind of surprising.
Yes.
In a way.
About the coronavirus.
So with that, what about our panel? Because what we have to understand now in the state of Florida, we're in phase 3 and we're all fully opening up the state of Florida. What's y'all opinion on that?
Well, go ahead, ma'am.
Jerry, Carol, thank you so much for having me. how do I say this? Our politics for the last some odd years has been training us to believe there's a certain number of deaths is acceptable for the achieving of a certain goal. That is a narrative that was principally driven by the National Rifle Association, the NRA. The NRA has told us that deaths by gun violence in our community, deaths by mass shooters is acceptable. It's an acceptable trade-off for freedom. Right? For freedom. That and so an outgrowth of that attitude is don't encumber me. Dead people dying is something I can live with in order for my life to not be encumbered in any way. And that is an attitude and a viewpoint that is based in moral bankruptcy. And because we were ineffective at calling out the moral bankruptcy of that mindset, once you say 200 people is okay so long as I get to do what I want, then you say 33,000 people a year is okay so long as I get to do what I want. Then it's not a big stretch to say 200,000 dead people is okay so long as I get to do what I want. And that's where we are. The people who are refusing to wear masks are saying, I don't care that it's not really that big of an imposition on me. I don't want you to be able to impose on me at all. And to the extent that you are imposing upon me to keep my brother safe, I would rather my brother die. And quite frankly, I'm okay if my brother is actually my legitimate brother, right? I'm okay with it. Because we are living in a season of anti-morality, anti-Christianity, anti-truth, anti-justice, and anti-honesty. And with that comes anti-decency. And once we embrace the concepts of anti-decency, there's really no end to that slope. So if you can accept 200,000 dead Americans so you get to say and do what you want, then you would also accept 2 million dead Americans so that you can say and do what you want. And you would accept 20 million dead Americans so that you can say and do what you want.
Tanner, Sister Brown, how do you feel about this virus and what is taking place?
Well, you know, I shared with you all a couple of weeks ago that my father was in the hospital and he died of COVID. It's made me even more, to a large extent, hyper aware about washing my hands and wearing a mask, and how I pay attention more now to the spike in numbers. I'm very careful about who I'm around. So, and, you know, the local the city government the governor going to phase 3. Of course, I was afraid, right? Because, for instance, my sister, she's an essential worker. She works in a doctor's office. I know people who work in restaurants. What's going to happen when those employees when the customers aren't told that they have to wear masks to protect their employees? I mean, this rush to just reopen the city and just get back to business. If we just get back to business, then we've learned nothing from this pause. We have the opportunity to take a step back and reimagine what we want this world to be. And if we don't do that, then we fail to do that, then we haven't gotten the lesson.
Absolutely. Bill?
Well, to me, it's simply a matter of economics. It's all about the economy and nothing else. Those in power, the top 3%, that has chosen to decide for us what is good and what is bad. You would think that 8 months in, we would have some kind of plan. The people that are in the position to be planning and strategizing and trying to curtail what is happening in America today, we his campaign promise was to make America #1 again. And he did that. He did just that. We are #1 on the worst end of the spectrum. We lead the world in deaths, with infections, and the S-hole countries aren't even in the position that we are. That is exactly what comes, Miss Carol, Mr. Jerry, when we have a lack of leadership. Nothing but economics from my viewpoint. But the young lady last week rocked me with the thought that the young people think they are invincible. Now, granted, when we were young, we thought we were invincible. But guys, when we were young, we didn't have a killer out there like this. Now, I tell the people that I church with, I'm faithful, faith-based, and I'm a deacon. I've been teaching Sunday school the last 14 years. I tell them I have not been to services in the last 3 months, and I'm not coming till this thing slows. But for the fact that you know someone who has gotten COVID and recovered, that doesn't mean that if you get it, you're going to recover.
That's
and
right.
I try to impress that upon people. And last week when we spoke of when you get it, that's going to be considered a condition, a pre-existing condition.
That's right.
You would think for that alone that they would be a little bit more careful, but it is amazing. I'm glad we should have young people on a little bit more often because her candidness really impressed me. I was taken aback with what she said, but man, oh man, if the young people are our voice viewers or people that are faithful our voices viewers, please tell your children, your grandchildren that this thing is not a joke.
Yeah, and I want to pop in here just to say a couple things that we need to keep in mind. Number one, it's a novel coronavirus. What that means is it's new to us. We're by no means certain of how this thing behaves.
Yes.
We have no idea what the downstream consequences of an infection is. The other point I want to make is we know so little. We are not seeing what people are going through when they get this thing because we don't have cameras in the hospitals, right? We're all dispersed. So we're not at church. We're not at the places where people gather and talk to each other about what's going on in their lives. And so we are not seeing the physical evidence of the toll that this thing takes on people. We're hearing it in Zooms. We're seeing, like, people are talking about it, but it's different than when you actually see it, right? And we're not seeing the videos of people who can't visit their loved ones. We're not seeing what it looks like when a 25 or 35 or 55-year-old person is on a ventilator for 4 weeks. We're not seeing it. It's not just that it makes you sick. It makes you sick in a way that isolates you, weakens you, and makes you suffer for a long period of time. So even if you recover, you can have these very significant lingering consequences. Now, I want to remind your audience that we didn't know what human papillomavirus was going to do. It was one of those sleepy viruses where half the people who got infected with it had no idea they had it and were spreading it to other people. People weren't using, protection. And the next thing you know, everything's cool and kosher until you're about 55 or 65. And then all of a sudden you've got head and neck cancer. You get esophageal cancers, tongue cancers, throat cancers, head cancers. And people are like, where'd you get that from? Well, that all came from dormant HPV. So that what you thought was no big deal can cause you to have cancers in your mouth and throat that you end up going through chemo, radiation. You lose your ability to talk, to swallow, and then sometimes it just takes your life. Now, we don't know whether coronavirus is going to do something serious to those people who got infected 10, 15, 20 years from now. We have no idea.
That's something deep there, Pam. Will this change with Florida opening up, the state of Florida? Will this change how you react or how you move or where you go? Mayor, let's get you in there. Will you change?
The biggest problem I see with Florida opening up, there's no cure. We're still fighting an unknown, and there is no cure. So when you open up the state of Florida, you're taking away the masks, you're taking away all this kind of stuff that could help protect us, and now it's just a free fall. And unfortunately, there's going to be a whole lot more people dying because of somebody else's stupidity, trying to make a dollar, trying to make the first 3 years of stupidity look great in the end. That's crazy.
Yeah, because they're saying about another 200,000 will die by the end of October. Is that right?
End of the year.
End of the year.
Some close to 300,000 be dead by the end of the year.
Yeah, because
you got 1,000 people dying a day.
Exactly.
So,
See, the thing that's so stupid about this is that Florida is the state that relies more on tourism than any other state in the Union.
Right.
So part of what is killing us here economically is the downturn in tourism and seasonal residency because people don't feel like it's safe to come here. So if you open up all of the businesses and say you don't have to wear masks anymore, that's not going to make me go to that business. That's going to make me think, I need to stay home because this has become more dangerous, not less dangerous. So opening up a business does not solve its problems if the customers don't come back. That's the problem. The problem is that those of us who take it seriously aren't going. You opening up the business is not going to make me go because you can never entice me into risky behavior, nor can you entice me into snorting cocaine. Sorry, not interested.
But Pam, we're all integrated there together. So even though we don't go, we still have to go to the store. We still kind of communicate when we go to the bank, doing our everyday chores. And these people that are going to the restaurants and to the beaches and to Disney World are still by you or near you. How are we going to deter that? So
I'm going to just stay home. Right? I'm going to be staying home. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's the reality. The reality is that those of us who have pre-existing conditions, those of us who are high risk, those of us who live with people who are high risk, we're just not going to go out. Like the governor can declare anything he dang wants to. I'm still not going to be hanging out because it's too risky. And we have no plan, we have no cure, we have no vaccine, and we don't have any leadership. So am I gonna go hang out? No, I'm not. Now, if one of my brothers and sisters is reopening their barbecue joint and they're willing to deliver, then okay, I'll do the Uber Eats and deliver food. But I'm not gonna hang out in your restaurant as much as I would love to. I miss restaurants, I miss church, I'm speaking over here. I miss socializing with my sorority sisters and my friends. I miss all of that, but I'm not willing to risk my life to recapture that, right? I'm just not. If I'm going out, I'm going to be wearing a mask.
That's true.
Distancing. Whether the governor thinks it's smart or not, I do, because I believe in science and he doesn't.
That's it. Bill, you are deacon in your church and you have the Sunday school class. How does your congregation? How does the congregation feel about you not attending church? Is there any pushback?
I have to listen to sermon after sermon on Sundays about how I can go to how we can go to Walmart, we can go to church, go to work, we can go all the places that we have to go and not be able to come to church. But you know what? In my spirit, man, it does not bother me, Miss Carol, because I can go boldly before the throne of grace, which is to my God, and speak to him for myself. And with the way that this thing is, my place is here at the house. It's not in a building where we have to, quote unquote, social distance. I mean, when the spirit falls and people get happy and they start shouting and these things can be in the air for certain periods of time. And I personally know a few in the congregation that has come down with it. So, Miss Carol, I don't feel any kind of way. I take the sermons with a grain of salt because if it's not, the food isn't for you, you just don't digest it. So I am good with those in leadership that preaches every Sunday about all the places that I can go. And if I can't go there, I can come to church. It doesn't bother me because in my heart of hearts, I know that I'm doing the right thing.
What about today? I heard on MSNBC, I heard some presidents of the HBCUs, and what they were trying to do was convince Black America that we need to participate in the vaccine trials. And they were just talking and said, okay, we have done it. And they wanted the students and the faculty from these HBCUs to participate as well. And I guess that's because they said they don't have enough African Americans for the studies. What do y'all think about that? Does anybody?
I don't trust this administration for anything. I'm sorry. This administration is dishonest to its very marrow. And it is utterly unconcerned with the well-being of human beings. So until we get a new president and a new administration and a new leadership, I don't trust none of that. And I know that sounds skeptical, but they lie too much. So you lie to me once, that's all it takes for me to be skeptical. You lie to me 2 times, I'm through with you. This guy lies 15,000 times in his presidency. So no. And I know that there are good, dedicated professionals in the FDA. I know that they're good, dedicated professionals in the CDC and the NIH. These are good people. They're smart people. They're great scientists. But they're also being controlled by leadership that's purely political.
Right. And that's what I was saying. Yeah, I wouldn't participate until I saw the leadership from the scientists only, not any political people out there talking, but the scientists who know what's going on, the virologists who have done this work, like Dr. Fauci and others, the Black scientists and all of that who was working on this thing to try to bring it under control. But it will never come under control as long as people are not doing what needs to be done out in the public to help bring it. The Dr. Ratcliffe, whatever his name were, in the congressional hearing, saying he would put more trust in the mask than he would the vaccine. And he was telling people that if we just wore the mask every day for a couple months, it would start bringing down the disease as much as thousands, almost to nil. But then after that hearing, the scientists decide, well, we need to do the 3rd phase of open up Florida. He never had closed it down for
exactly.
Really,
exactly.
never did. Left people to their own, because it was other cities around Florida that was closing down, like the city here in Pensacola. They was mandating people wear their personal protection equipment that they needed to protect themselves and others.
I totally. I mean, I want to ask Deacon, like what happened? How do we in this place where the more cruel a person is, the better. The more callous and disrespectful the person is, the better. The more bigoted and racist, the better. We want to mimic selfishness and self-absorption. We want to mimic dishonesty and cruelty. I know that every generation has taught us to be more like Christ. When did we buy into this notion of a president who's like the anti of Christ? When did Christ say, let me just put you down and diminish and attack you? Let me lie to you constantly. Let me take your child from you and put your kids in cages. Where's that in the scripture? I'm sorry, I'm maybe not a scriptural expert, but I don't recall Jesus saying that when you meet a stranger, take your child and put him in a cage. How did we get there?
Ms. Keith, to be quite frank with you, I have lost faith in not only leadership or the lack thereof, but I've also lost it in the faith-based ministries. The last 4 months, I used to watch televangelists pretty much around the clock, you could say. But for them to be so far right and conservative and Trump supporters and lovers, it has made me question true Christianity. Sunday morning is the most segregated time in all of America. So the God that I serve would no way condone what is taking place. And I believe that some things has come upon this country here as of late because of what's taking place. I would strongly say that God isn't pleased with what's happening in government here in our country, and the so-called conservative Christians that are so concerned with the left and our ability to free choice when it comes to a woman and her body and a baby, are so concerned with a baby that isn't born, but a man that is shot in the back 7 times or has his, a knee on his throat for over 8 minutes, or a young lady sleeping in her bed in the sound of night to be awakened with somebody kicking down her door. They are more concerned, Ms. Key,
Yes, they
with
are.
an unborn baby than for the black men and people of color in this country being gunned down by this mob called law enforcement. So I have to question true Christianity and the ones on the far right that buy into this notion that this guy that is in the White House now and all of his hate speech and rhetoric, how they chant him on, and to really be really, Frank, you got black women chanting online, black women for Trump, blows me away. I just don't know where we're headed.
It's not true. That's you got to understand that a lot of the activity that you see online is completely fictitious. It's being driven by Russia and other foreign entities and troll farms and whatever. A lot of what it looks like support doesn't actually materialize at the ballot box because it's not real.
Okay.
So just
well, I'm banking on this one.
Tinny, Ade, and Pam, you are both running for offices during this pandemic. How has it affected the way you're getting out and meeting people? How has it affected your campaigning?
Oh, yes. Well, I started campaigning during the shutdown. So it was a little difficult. It was more difficult for me because everybody was in their house. They had already been in their homes. So I have to, I just make sure that when I knock on the doors, I step back, we wear a mask, you lower your mask, you let the person see who you are, put it back on, keep your distance. But something else that I've noticed though, because people have been so isolated for the past few months, they like your visit. So they want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good for their spirit too. And it is good for mine because it allows me to meet everyone in the city council and my city council district. They share a lot. So that was an unexpected outcome that there will, because they're at home and they want company now, their willingness to share. You all know today I met a woman who was a Holocaust survivor. And she lived 2 blocks away from me. This is my second suite, so I didn't catch it the first time because no one was answering their door. So she shared wonderful stories about how her parents fled, and she was 4 years old and still remember some of it. I also noticed that I'll put the door hanger on someone's door, and then when I walk back down the street, it's gone, which shows me that they heard me. They just weren't coming outside. So again, people have been having conversations through the screens. Some people just keep the glass door open and talk. But it's been I've never been in a campaign before, so thank goodness I don't know anything different. This is what it is now. so this is all I know.
Well, I have. Let me tell you, it's very different. I do think it's a huge advantage, Jerry and Carol, that I ran for the seat in 2018, so that I have this like equity in the bank of FaceTime that I put in with so many voters and so many events. And you know me, I'm like the most grassrootsy girl out there. I'll hang out at the country fair and be handing out palm cards at the state fair and whatever. So I got to meet a lot of people in person last time, and I built on that. But that's really in the Democratic base. Now I got to reach out to that general election base, and that's a lot bigger lift. And so almost all of my time is spent fundraising, to be honest with you. I spend 10 hours a day on the phones fundraising. And it's not easy to do, but you just got to do what you got to do, because it's about commercials and mailers. And this is large scale communications in a congressional district. It's not actually in Miami. I'm in the Treasure Coast and Palm Beaches. So it's Palm Beach, Martin, and St. Lucie County. And, you know, it's just, it's a very different situation. But we just crossed our 600 volunteer to join our campaign and help us out. So we have text messaging, we have door knocking, we set up a special task force that talks to seniors in assisted living facilities and nursing homes. So all they do is do postcards and calls and social activities with seniors who were shut in, because I felt like we really needed to pay some special attention to those people because nobody else is. So we've been really emphasizing communicating with people in nursing homes, but we're also really emphasizing young people. We've set up a couple groups of folks that are really going to be door knocking and talking to young people at night. We've never really had an emphasis of talking to people who are awake in the night and asleep during the day. Be they truckers or nurse, you know, people who work the night shift, people who are nurses, or people who just hang out at the liquor stuff, right? Like, you got to take the politics to the people. You cannot expect the people to come to the politics. And this is something that I said the other day, and I probably should have said it to this audience, which is to say, there is a misconception in politics that poor people don't vote because they don't care. And that is just not true. Poor people don't vote because we don't care. Right? They don't vote because they don't see poor people in commercials. They don't see poor people in platform. They don't see poverty represented in any kind of political materials or from the candidates speaking about poverty, because the consultant class of politics is hyper focused on swing voters. There tend to be white voters. They tend to be upper middle class voters. And those people's existence marries up to the existence of the people who live in that political world. So when you hire good consultants, those consultants went to University of Florida, they went to Georgetown, or they went to Howard, and they hang out with people who co-echo their life experiences. They are college educated people. They hang out with college educated people, and they are hyper obsessed with swinging college educated people because that is something they know how to do. They know how to reason someone over to a political view. What they don't know how to do is how to communicate to someone who could never go to a bank, whose only finances is either cash or check cashing or payday lending, who lives in an economy where it's hand to mouth all the time, who doesn't have a stable home. Sometimes they're on grandma's couch, sometimes they're on auntie's couch, sometimes they're at home, and sometimes they have some place to live or not. We don't see those people. And because we don't see those people, we don't talk to those people. We have no plan for those people. We have no policy for those people. And then when we do show up, it's 2 weeks before the election, knocking on their door saying, hey, you got to show up and vote. And they're thinking to themselves, well, who am I voting for and why? That person don't give a damn about me, right? And what I wanted to do in this cycle was to pour a whole lot more energy into interfacing with those people. But I tell you, in politics, it's all but impossible to break those traditions, because the minute you do, they start screaming at you that you're going to blow your race and that they've done the polling and they know that they're the experts and they know how to run these things. And you are like this lamb, knowing that in your heart, you need to talk to poor people, but you can never get resources behind that, because the people who control and drive political spending and political fundraising only believe in one way of skinning the cat. That is the reality of our politics. I am constantly trying to backdoor, sideways, door knock, find a way to get people to acknowledge poor people in our country and in our community. And they're not just Black people. There are poor people of every age, every demographic. And that's where our politics is going off the rails. That's what I think.
Okay. Like and share the show. Also, Mayor Hawkins, you're rerunning for mayor also this year.
It sure is. How's that? Do you answer that same question? That's why.
How's it affecting you this time around?
It's not really. I'm not really worried about it because the guy that's running against me did not qualify legally.
Oh.
I'm gonna just wait till it's over.
So he didn't qualify legally.
That's easy.
The statute says he has to resign his seat 10 days prior to qualifying. They allowed him to resign his seat and qualify the same day.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're okay.
I'm good. I'm
Okay.
spending money.
Oh, okay. Pam, you said something that struck me because Jerry and I and Bill knows and Tenny a Day that and the mayor from Century, all of us, I'll say, know that it's hard to collect funds or to get resources in the Black community. And you made a point. You said that they don't want to go into the poor communities. They don't want to put any resources, and we're finding that out. It's hard to get resources.
It's excruciating. It's
Right.
excruciating because you're not considered a serious candidate unless you're hiring a certain kind of consultant, and that consultant is always going to drive your resources, the money that you spend 10 hours a day fundraising. They're going to always drive it into the things that they value and that they want to see done. And they're telling you always, oh, well, the statistics and they prove this and they prove this and they prove this. And I'm like, yeah, but we keep losing. So like, again, it's hard. It's a constant loggerheads. And there's no answer to that because you're not a serious candidate if you don't have a strong team. And what is viewed as strong is validating that same worldview, right? So it's constant echo chamber validation of this worldview. And when you're coming in with some different messages saying, hey, we really need to start thinking about young people and disenfranchised people and people who are on the margins of society, we need to bring them into the fold. People are like, well, you know, we can't, they don't even poll those people. So how do you register that? Like,
you're right. Because when they say likely voters, you know, when they look at these polls and they'll tell you likely voters. And so the poor people or Black people are not even, because they're not considered a likely voter. So they're not even in the polling concept. So you've got a whole mass of people over here.
But they feel like those people are not going to show up on election day this year if they didn't show up on election day the year before, and they didn't show up the year before. And so it's just a self-validating kind of echo chamber. And I come at politics a different way because like Tenny a Day and probably like Mayor Hawkins, I actually spend time out on the street with people. You know, you go to church, you talk to people.
Well, you know,
the revival, like you actually interact with people and you develop a sense and instinct about what people are going through because you actually interact with them. And when the poll tells you that all you need to do is talk about X, Y, and Z, you're like, yeah, but actually, no, these people over here are really they're like, oh, no, that's not in the poll. How dare you say anything that's not in the poll? Like, and it's that's a constant tension. It's a constant tension. And it's not mean-spirited. I mean, it's not, they're not angry. They're trying to tell you what they sincerely believe to be the best knowledge they can give you, right? And there are times when their instincts are validated, most often when it's backed up with a lot of money. But you can't, how do you tell somebody you know something if you haven't won before, right? Like I've lost twice. It's not like they're going to listen to me, but I also feel like, yeah, I'm not the only one who's lost. In fact, this district has not been won for a while because of the same theory. So Obama came at it a different way. That's why he won. He brought the Black people out. So I know that I can bring the Black people out. If they feel a sense of ownership over my success, the only reason they're going to want to play in this game to help me succeed is because they actually trust and believe that my success will lead to something for them.
Absolutely. Sense of ownership is the word.
Dr. William Barber has been trying to convince the Democrat Party for the last years that until you begin to register and begin to, acquiesce with the poor people on the ground, both Black and white, you got hundreds of millions of people that don't even, they don't feel like the country care about them. And that's why a lot of them drift away from even thinking about politics.
They don't care, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, can you imagine in my district, in a span of 15-minute drive. You can be on Palm Beach Island or you can be in Belgium, right? You live in a different world in those 15 minutes.
Right.
Right? Like, how frustrating must it be to have television, to be able to see wealth? You see every commercial you see is a nice house, a nice neighborhood, a nice store. Every commercial is telling you why you should use this detergent instead of that detergent, or eat this cereal instead of that cereal. And you walk in and you're in a beautiful kitchen and mom's there and everybody's happy. And but what if your life is you haven't eaten this day at all? You have to go to the food pantry to get anything. You know, you don't care. You don't have a choice as to what kind of dish soap you're going to buy. You're going to buy the cheapest dish soap if you can buy dish soap at all, right? You're using dish soap to wash your clothes. If you're living that existence, and it's not because you're lazy, and it's not because you're feckless, it's because you're encumbered by the realities of being who you are, and where you came up. How angry must you be inside to see all this and not have any clue how to access any of that?
Well, Miss Jerry and even Sam, that's one thing I really like about my district in D5, that we are at risk losing, because the most expensive race was $6,800 in this district. Now and that's total, right? So it's been inflated exponentially. And we are essentially the cookout kind of fish fry folk, where people, even if you didn't have a lot of money,
You can do
that could participate. I can't give you anything, but I'm going to come out and vote for you. It wasn't this flood of signs and this overbearing media rushing me. We just didn't have to do that, right? And we have a little hometown kind of community feel and effect. And I hope that this never happens again in the future. And even me, I had to find more money than I normally would have had to because of obvious reasons. But the people also saw it was important. So I saw people giving money that they did not have to support me. And I'm forever grateful for it. But at the same time, I think it's horribly sad that we have even been put in a position to where we had to come up with this much money to save this seat.
Yeah.
Hey, Dr. Jerry, Miss Carol on a live Facebook stream, Miss Jerry Bell weighs in with the major problem of bringing folk from outside the community to run the campaigns that don't know our community, know the folk that they're in, that are key in the community, to be able to bring our folk together to get educated, informed about the candidates. And Rodney Jones did weigh in. I think this is directed at Miss Keith. He says, at what point do you choose to go a different route?
Well, you try to square the circle as best you can. I think you're right. I mean, what I chose to do was to hire local. Like the head of my campaign office in Fort Pierce is Pearl Liverpool, who's lived there for 20 years or 30. I mean, she was born and raised there, but she's come back, from her career. She's retired there, right? Why wouldn't I use a elder states person of the community who's lived there forever, knows everyone, right? I hired one of our returning citizens, young Black man who needs a second shot and knows the folks that hang out on the corner at night, in the park at night.
That's awesome.
Right? That's who I chose to hire. And don't think that was easy.
No, that's
right?
awesome.
Because what happens is the staff's like, why are we spending money on it? Because I know these people can get into the community in ways that you cannot, and I cannot. I'm not even going to pretend like my skin color gives me entree into everywhere, because that's not how our community works. We've seen a lot of people that are brown and not down, right? So I trust those people who earn people's respect and who earn their bona fides through being members of the community and being visible and active in the community, and who just people trust. And so I call that organic influencers. They don't have title, they don't have money, but they influence people, do what they ask. And that's a form of power. So everything about my politics is not about empowering myself. Everything about my politics is revealing to others the power within them, right? Get them to think of themselves as powerful. Because once they start thinking and acting like they're powerful, that helps me, because it's going to make me more powerful. That's how that's going to go, right? So that's kind of my approach. But it's like I said, it's always a challenge. It is always a challenge, because what you want to do and what people tell you you must do, and it's not like you're not Nostradamus. Like it's hard to do these things, and it's hard to win these things. And my district is a purple district. It's not a predominantly Dem district, so I got to be spot on, right? And so I feel really passionately about what I want to do, but my team feels very passionately about what the poll tells them that needs to be done to win. And again, I think there's a whole lot of biases based into that system that gives them the answers that they want, but I can't really say that they're totally wrong. I mean, they do have a career in this, right? So these are the challenges, when you're running locally, if you're running for city commission or county commission, it's a little bit easier to be an expert because you do actually have a smaller community that you're dealing with. But when you're running a congressional race, especially a big one, it's like, candidates are just supposed to be like talking heads with these puppets behind them that tell them everything they're supposed to say and do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's supposed to be message discipline. To me, that's just all fakeness and politics and bullshit. Excuse my language, but that's just,
I told you she's real.
I don't operate like that. Like, I just don't. So
now, let me ask you all this now. We're going to get on voting just a little bit because we really want to go into the erosion of the Supreme Court. We've got to talk about that. But then how do we ensure that the African Americans get out and vote
they don't
during
have
a
to go out.
pandemic and in Pensacola, Florida, in Escambia County, in this area, Northwest Florida, we just had Hurricane Sally.
Right.
So we've got to compound that with the pandemic. What can they do? I heard you say they'll have to come out. Go ahead.
This is easy. This one is not difficult. Order a vote by mail ballot. I don't care whether you choose to use it. Consider it insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Always have the capacity to have your vote counted by having a vote by mail ballot in your hand. Now, you can fill it out and mail it, or you can fill it out and just drop it off at the supervisor of elections office. You can fill it out and drop it at early vote, or you can just take it with you to early vote, hand it over, and early vote electronic. You have all options available to you with a vote by mail ballot. By contrast, if you choose to only vote on election day, you have foreclosed every other opportunity to protect your vote. Why? Because if something goes wrong on election day, there's hardly anything you can do. So if Hurricane Bertha comes through on election day, everybody who waited for election day is now jammed up.
That's right.
So why in the Sam Hill would you give yourself no option but election day? If it's a 6-hour line, if there's no parking, if the machines break down, if they under-resource the staff, which by the way, we know they will do for predominantly Black precincts because that's what they always do for that. Why play into that? Order your vote by mail ballot. Maybe Mars is in the 7th house and Venus is rising and you will be inspired to fill it out. But even if you're not, even if you'd rather wait till election day, you can still take that VDF ballot, walk into the polling place on election day, hand it over, and then go vote on election day in real person. And they will just cancel that vote by mail ballot. No harm, no foul. You go vote on election day. Give yourself maximum options.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you do that is to get a vote by mail ballot and have that in your possession as your trump card. And I did use the term specific. Your vote by mail ballot is your insurance that your vote will be counted. Now, I will say this. There's no reason for you to wait till election day. Right. You could definitely do it early. And to me, I think it makes most sense to open up that ballot, read it over, and start Googling things. Mm-hmm. Personally, my plan is to get a whole bunch of my friends together, my supporters together. We're going to vote together. We're going to do a vote Zoom live to Facebook, where we're going to
great idea.
We're going to talk about it in real time.
Great idea.
Right? Because what you going to do? It's my ballot. I can do what I want. I say that's just it. I'm gonna say, hey y'all, let's talk about these referendums. There's several referendums on this ballot that a lot of voters don't know anything about. There are a whole bunch of judicial candidates and local municipal candidates that people don't know anything about. Why would you put yourself in a situation where the first time you're thinking about these things is when you're in the ballot poll booth?
Right.
Why would that be the first time? That's a great way to waste your vote.
Well, I understand that we said vote by mail. The request time deadline is October 1st. Am I right?
No,
Okay.
The deadline to register to vote altogether is October the 5th. The last day that you can request a vote by mail ballot, I think, is somewhere in the middle of October. It's like October 17th. Don't quote me because each county has a little nuance on that. So check your county's information. But you can request a vote by mail ballot up to like, I think 2 weeks before actual election day, because that gives time for the ballot to get to you. Okay.
Okay.
So if you have not, and the beautiful thing is you can use this device right here to ask for a vote by mail ballot. If you're a registered voter, just go to the SOE, look up your stuff and ask for a vote by mail ballot for all elections. And then you will get a one, whether you think about it or not, it'll just come to you, right? And then you'll go through your mail and there's like, oh, there's a ballot. Oh, see, the beautiful thing is that it reminds you of elections that you might not even be thinking about, right?
But do you know if, I saw too on the air was that when you mail that ballot in, which we did, and I didn't pay any attention to it, is it true or not that there is a D on the back side of it and an R, so anyone, even though your ballot is sealed, on the outside, people can actually tell whether or not it's a Democrat or Republican?
Not true. Not
true.
That is absolutely 100% not true. Here's the beautiful thing about vote by mail and why I am such a fan of it. And I wasn't last time. I was not, not because of that, for a different reason. It is true that once they start counting them, those counts go up to the Secretary of State of Florida. And the Secretary of State of Florida is Republican. And I have a lot of reasons to have questions about what gets reported when. But that's a fourth layer issue. We got first layer issues, right? So what happens with precincts, just like what happens with ghettos, right? With projects, they pocketize people. And when you know that the majority of your Dem votes are going to be in one place, that's the place you attack if you want to attack an election. But if you vote by mail, my mail goes into the USPS and it shows up at the Supervisor of Elections office with everybody else's vote. So how do you target that now I'm commingled with everybody else? This theory that there's D's and R's, not true. So you just commingle your ballot and then they just get counted. So once you mail in your ballot, it will say received and then it will say counted, right? So you can actually track what's going down with your ballot. Now, I'm not suggesting that our vote by mail system is perfect in our state. It's not. It was written by Republicans. So you can kind of guess that they baked in some stupidity here. Like the fact that if you have a problem, like your signature doesn't match, they won't even tell you that it didn't match until after election day and then tell you don't have time to fix it. You should have time to fix that. That was something that was litigated in 2018 by Bill Nelson because I raised it, right? But it makes no sense to have a statute that cuts off your ability to cure these ballots. And it's also true that more African-American and Latino ballots get kicked out and then what? But it's still way higher. It's still way higher than so statistically, if we vote by mail, we will still have a much higher turnout than we do it in person. Because what happens is most people aren't willing to stand in line for 6 hours.
Yeah, that's true.
So they just go home, right? So it's really important. There's one other thing. Vote by mail always involves a paper ballot. Now in Florida, I think all ballots are paper ballots, but there's plenty of states that don't have any paper ballot at all. It's all electronically recorded when you vote in person. And let's just say there's a lot of issues with the security and the performance of those electronic voting screens. It's very difficult to do a recount or to backtrack where there's a dispute if it's all electronic. And it's a whole lot easier if you actually have stacks of paper ballots that you can actually physically recount. So I always encourage people to choose the method that creates a paper ballot. In our state, all voting creates a paper ballot, because when you go vote in person, you still fill out a paper thing and they run it. But we have long ballots in Florida. Our ballots are so long, which means that our lines are long. We have older people who take a longer time to read ballots because the font's all tiny. And so you're doing yourself no favors by putting yourself in a situation where you have to spend 4 hours or 5 or 6 or 7 hours of a day to vote.
Yes. Yeah.
Why does that make sense? Chill in the comfort of your own home, have an adult beverage, guacamole and chips, throw on your slippers, call your bestie, put your bestie, your friends, your family on a Zoom call, and open up your ballots and vote them together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. I was going to say, in Wisconsin, they already have removed, they are trying to remove 189,000 voters from the roll. In Georgia, they have removed 200,000 from the roll already. You know, and nobody, to me, they haven't told the people reason why. And then, you know, they don't do anything to try to help the people to save the.
I can explain what happens there. Because we have been sleeping on our voting rights. I want to start with that. Because we, the Black people, have been sleeping on our voting rights, we allowed legislation and court interpretations to say that inactive voters can be removed from voter rolls. We started to treat the right to vote as a use it or lose it kind of thing. Now they're saying that you're not actually losing your right to vote if you're kicked off the rolls, but you are. Because you can't vote when you choose to vote. You have to re-register to vote. And so I am a big proponent of automatic voter registration. That is something that is a piece of legislation that would fix this forever going forward. Forever. You would never be in a situation where you cannot vote in an election. That's the way it should be. But we've been not vigilant. So the Republican Party, and I'm sorry, I'm just being honest, it is the Republican Party. It is not both sides. There is no movement in the Democratic Party to suppress Republican votes, not anywhere. This is purely a Republican methodology. They have been up at night for years, figuring out ways to carve out as many Democratic votes as they can. And the surefire way to do that is to carve out Black votes, because Black voters vote Democratic at 80-something%. So we've allowed our vote to become the chum for the sharks in the water for all this time. And it's just now dawning on us just how ruthless they have been in suppressing our vote.
Yes.
Because we should have dawned on us when they brought in the ID requirements. It should have dawned on us when they were doing all that crazy gerrymandering, when they were doing the purges, when they were, you know, why is it that we don't have the most highest penalty ever to encumber somebody else's vote? You take my democracy from me, you take my freedom from me. Guess what? I can take it back and put your freedom from you. Anybody who steals someone else's vote should go to jail for as long as we could possibly put them away. Because that is the greatest crime. It's not just a crime against the person, it's a crime against the country.
You're right. And since we're talking about that, let's go a little farther, because we have so many returning citizens that with the middle foreign returning citizen, Jerry, you know about this, and I'm sure the others do, chime in, that are being disenfranchised right now, even though the amendment was passed by 60%, 65%, that's even higher. There's still problems. Sure, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, the thing about it, like you say, it was passed by 65% of the state of Florida voters, and the legislators decided they was going to circumvent what the people, as when they voted for this amendment, which is a constitutional amendment that should have been the foundation of everything that was voted for. They went and circumvented it, and then went to court time after time to make sure that people did not get their rights back. And the circuit court upheld that people would have to pay their fines and fees. Now, what do fines and fees have to do with you
That's
voting in a democracy.
The poll
You know,
tax.
yeah, that's all it is.
That's an 11th circuit that was stacked by Donald Trump. Again,
Exactly.
I keep saying everything that is happening is a consequence of our passivity.
So what's happening with that, Jared?
Well,
Do they have the right to vote?
Carol, there are entities out there willing to pay those fees and penalties, but the problem is people don't even have a bill or some kind of assessment of what that is. So the reality is, they have a backlog of 85,000 people looking for that information. And there's some counties that are really good at getting that information so they can get it paid, and some counties are not. And it just kind of depends on which court you're in and which county. And the overwhelming majority of these people, do you know what their crime is? Driving without a license. And do you know why they were driving without a license? Because they didn't pay tolls.
Gee. So
that's how easy we've made it to take somebody's vote. See, this is the thing that we don't talk about. And we need to, and I do, which is that the penalty for being somebody who's not registered to vote and voting is so much higher than the penalty for encumbering somebody's vote unlawfully or stealing someone's vote or tearing up their ballot. Why is that? Why is that? I think that if you encumber somebody's vote, you should lose your right to vote forever.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
So
yes, I am saying that publicly.
Yeah.
I am okay with saying that publicly.
It's
not a crime against the individual. It is a crime against the individual and the democracy.
So we're saying to the returning citizens, I just want to be clear that someone might be looking at the show, that's returning citizens, that the deadline, from what I understand, I'm going back with the October 1st, which is Tuesday. Is that
October
correct?
5th, I believe. Yeah,
October
for the register.
To
register to vote.
That's the deadline to register to vote.
That's for
the registration deadline is October the 5th.
So if the returning citizen wanted to register to vote, can they register to vote?
Yeah, I think
go ahead and register, but they can't actually vote unless their fines are paid.
Exactly. Right. Go ahead and register, and then, but you may not be eligible to vote unless you get that thing cleared. So,
right.
Is there a deadline for that? Is there a deadline for that, Pam?
I don't know that, and I don't want to speak out of turn. I think the best thing to do is to Google or go online and find that information. There's a lot of websites. The Second Chances Coalition is doing great work in this. There are definitely pots of money out there of generous folks that have offered to pay fees and fines. But again, you got to have some kind of record of what your fee is in order to pay it off, right? And there are a lot of people who were never assessed fees and fines. And the difference between a fine is what the judge says, oh, you pay $500 restitution. A fee is the courts for the court reporter and the bailiff. So it's like an actual administrative cost of the court. And most people are never assessed fees, right? They're never assessed fees. So how would they know what the fee is? This was a brilliant tactic by the Republicans to undo Amendment 4. And the reason this happened is because, again, we were passive. The night that Amendment 4 passed, I called my friend Desmond. I said, go to court now and seek declaratory judgment to stop the Republicans from cutting this to ribbons, because you know they will. And I was told by some friends of friends, like, oh, no, we got this. We vetted the language 6 ways till Tuesday. We know the language is perfect. I said, I don't care what the language is. They will find a way to encumber this. And I wish they had done what I asked, because they could have gone to a court that still had some Democrats on the Supreme Court of Florida, back when we still had some, and said, hey, we are putting we're going to put a wall around this thing that prohibits the legislature from encumbering it. And if we had done that, we would have been moving from a position of strength.
Yeah, so that's very sad that we've got all these people that can't vote in, and that was last year when that amendment went through. But let's go to this, the erosion of the Supreme Court. Yeah. You all know, everyone on the panel knows that Donald Trump elected or nominated what was her name?
Barrett Coney.
Barrett Coney.
And what do y'all think about her from what you know, even though they're bringing her out with all of the 7 children, and of course there are a couple of black
I'm going to put it
kids.
to you very simply. That is one sanctimonious woman with very movable morals.
Mm-hmm.
She has musical morality. So I don't care how religious she is. I don't care how faithful she thinks she is. She's morally unstable. Because this is a woman who got on TV and said that Barack Obama shouldn't be able to see Merrick Garland in the last year of her presidency, and then she's going to turn around and try to accept the very same thing for herself. She's as hypocritical as every creature on her team.
A whole year before his term was up.
I'm telling you.
A whole year. We got 2 months.
Right? We're
Before
31 days from the election, and this woman is talking about, well, it's okay if it's me.
Yeah.
I could never trust the judicial temperament or the judgment of a woman that could be that hypocritical.
Well,
So,
you know, if
she's
gets
a religious zealot is just another component of what's scary about her.
Right. Yeah, and on top of that, she said, you know, the women should always listen to their man, and you know whatever he's saying. And the thing about it, that's what's hypocritical. Then I'm like, okay, well, why aren't your husband the one running for judge, and you at home in the kitchen?
I mean,
Put it in pregnant.
They try to frame her as just Catholic. She's not Catholic in the sense of like regular run-of-the-mill Catholic. She's part of a subgroup of Catholicism that is extreme right. I don't know. It's probably in that same vein as Opus Dei, but it's like this hyper, you know, like extreme Pentecostal, I guess, version of Catholicism. And the problem with all of that kind of deeply sectionalized zealotry is that it can't exist without imposing itself on others, right? Sonia Sotomayor is Catholic, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg was Jewish. Elena Kagan is Jewish. We've had Catholic and Protestant judges, but they've all been willing to say that their faith, their religion is not going to be the driving force of their judgments. This woman cannot say that because that is not the basis of her sect. Her sect absolutely believes that it is her job to impose their religious views on others. So, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have an opinion in regards to this lady being nominated?
And decision.
Well, you know that according to a tweet I saw earlier, that RBG, and we just call my generation, we just call it RBG. It says
Bader Ginsburg.
Right. We just said, and with the crown tilted like Biggie.
Yeah.
So so I think the tweet was credited to be one of her last words, and something to the effect of her wishing that she not be replaced until a new president is installed. And if these were among her last words, we should respect her wishes. Simple as that.
Well, yeah, I agree, but let's just call a spade a spade. There is no rules here on Team GOP.
Right.
It's a moving goalpost. When we're in power, we do anything, and when you're in power, we stop everything.
Right.
But you have to understand the underlying thinking behind this. I cannot stress this enough. The reason they think that subpoenas issued by a Democratic Congress should not be paid attention to is the same reason that they believe that a Black president shouldn't be able to appoint Supreme Court justices. And it's the same reason they believe that they can do any old thing when they're in power. And that is because the votes that put Democrats in power are votes of people of color and poor people and LGBT people and Jewish people. And they don't believe they're similarly American.
You got it. You got it.
They believe that we own as much of the Constitution as they do. They think it's some massive trespass for Congress to be set and made up of people who don't look like them, who were put in power by people who don't look like them. And so they don't respect the legal, political, governmental actions of those people.
Yeah.
So if you ask him, why should you be able to ignore a congressional subpoena? Only if it's a Democratic Congress that issued it. If it's a Republican Congress that issued a subpoena, they'd lose their heads if you ignored a subpoena, because to them, The real people put Republicans in power. The real Americans put Republican in power, and the rest of us aren't real. That's what's at battle in this election.
And the thing about it, you got people like Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and others who will lie at the drop of a hat, and I mean they will viciously lie.
Because it is that is when you talk about multiple layers of communication, they master the capacity to be talking at this upper level where hypocrisy and all this other stuff, when underneath everybody knows what you're really saying.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody on their team knows that the reason they are being hypocritical up here is because they don't believe black votes should allow people to get in power.
Right.
It's because they don't believe Muslims should be able to be in power. They're not real Americans. That's what underlies their acceptance of all this hypocrisy. They accept all this hypocrisy, and this is perfectly okay. And they're not ashamed of their hypocrisy, and they're not ashamed of their injustice, because deep down, their whole team accepts that Democrats shouldn't be in power because Democrats are voted in by people who aren't real Americans. And the realness of your Americanness is the degree to which you look like them.
Oh,
and Trump asked the question, what do you have to lose?
Everything.
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 Including your life.
America.
If she's
including your life.
Right. If she's elected, if she becomes
she's going to likely be, she
will be.
Yeah,
when she becomes the Supreme Court judge, she'll be 63.
It will. But see, the thing is, it doesn't have to stay that way.
Right.
But
if we do what we're supposed to do,
exactly.
If we do what we're supposed to do, we can mitigate, we can neutralize her and her buddies.
But
we have to get a Democratic Senate in power.
But let me say this though, that 63 vote now, the health care plan, the ACA, or quote Obamacare, is due to
it's in court.
It's
right
in
now.
court, but the decision will come down
right
a week after
the
election. I think it's November 9th or 10th.
Right.
That so
I mean, there's no question they're going to illustrate Obamacare. I mean, that was done by a black man. Come on.
Well, see, that's why Trump wants her. Now, if they try to get her to recruit,
that's not why he wants
herself. You don't think
no. To be honest, Carol, let's get real. The only reason he wants her is because she will let him off the hook for all the crimes that he has committed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He wants her to help him secure this election through a Supreme Court act. It's sort of ancillary. Her real true north is abortion, right? Like that's her shining star problem. But he's putting her on for her to rule for him and keep him in power in the presidency. And the only way that even comes into play is if this thing gets real close, and we cannot allow it to be close.
But Pam, I want to talk to him. Y'all jump in. I want to talk to you because the healthcare is at stake, and you've got over what, 30 million people? How many people?
Well, you got 20 million, 20 some million on the insurance. You got 130 some million that with pre-existing condition in the country. And it's probably, and with this virus, is more than that now. You're going to be close to 200 million people with a pre-existing condition because of all of the people that have caught this coronavirus. And this is what they are trying to do. Trying to protect the insurance companies as well by not passing the CARES Act. And Mitch McConnell and all of them know exactly what they're doing. If they can knock off the Affordable Care Act, that's why they haven't passed this CARES Act, because they don't want the Affordable Care Act to.
They don't want
to limit.
Well, how do we get the people to understand how important this is? That if they vote for Donald Trump, that their health care might disappear. The jobs are gone.
This to you. You need to understand this. You need to understand this. The people who are voting for Donald Trump are motivated by completely different things.
Yeah.
You cannot reason somebody out of a position they didn't reason themselves into.
So they don't care that they don't have health care.
No.
But what about
what they care about is they
go vote.
No, the reason they like Trump is because he's going to take health care from you.
Mm-hmm.
But not realizing
they also take care of health care from you. Right? That's okay. As long as it takes health care from you, because that's what offends them.
Let me jump in right quick. I know it's kind of like a little bit off base, but Cindy Martin on our Facebook stream says September the 24th, 2020, vote by mail ballots were mailed. October 5th, 2020, last day to register to vote. October 24th of this year, last day to request a vote by mail ballot. October 19th is the first day of early voting. November 3rd at 7 p.m., vote by mail return deadline. November 3rd, 2020, election day. This election has been projected to be the biggest election in Florida's history. We are the end game, and all eyes are on us.
Absolutely.
In the program, I need you to read that again, but a little slower, slow, because you ran through it. But thank you for that. But back to the Supreme Court and this health care. How do we get our people to understand that if we don't vote, that health care is at stake, that a woman's rights to their own body is at stake.
Voting rights at stake.
Voting rights at stake. And then you also have, if this happens, that there'll be discrimination against your gender and your sex, as far as the trans and the
LGBTQ.
So how can we get them to understand the importance of it? And they always saying, how does it affect me? I don't know. I don't see any reason to vote. How do we get this to them? How do we get this message?
That's a very difficult question. How do we make people vote? I don't know.
I think
all I can do is what I do. All I do is work as hard as I can, run as many commercials as I can, raise as much money as I can, do as many events as I can, do as many shows as I can, do as much Zoom as I can. That's all I know how to do. You're asking the impossible question because the answer to that is, I mean, if we had the answer to that, we wouldn't be in this pickle in the first place.
Well, LaTosha Brown, I think she did an excellent job of the day explaining what she said, make sure it's the people. When you're talking to them, make sure they are the one that's important, not just their vote, but they are important. The voter is the most important person or thing that's have to deal with this election. What you have to find out, what is it that they care about? And that's one of the things that I've often talked about. We have to talk to the people where they are. What is it that you care about? What affects you? If your children is going to school, how is it going to affect their education? If you're living in housing, how will it affect your housing arrangement if you put the wrong person in power versus the person that want to help you? How will it help you with your health care? Who's voting against health care? Who's voting for it? Who's for Social Security and who's not for it? We got to put it in a instant like that. Even in the job market, who's going to make sure that we bring back jobs properly where people can have a livable wage, and who's not? So all of those things, you got to deal with the voter themselves and let them, feel that they are a part of importance of this election, that they, as you said before, that they will buy into what you are saying and doing.
Agreed. I mean, that's all we know how to do, Carol, is trying to talk to people, trying to get them educated, trying to get them involved. That's all we know how to do. And at the end of the day, I mean, think about Sojourner Truth. How many times did she want to free a slave that wasn't willing to be freed?
Yeah. Right? Cindy Martin says, tell them that food stamps and health care is on the ballot.
It is.
It is.
That's unquestionably so. And our democracy is on the ballot, and so much else is on the ballot.
Let's talk about this. So many other things. It's I got a statement here that says it is a court. They're talking about the Supreme Court that will consistently rule in favor for the police and against the rights of criminal suspects and criminal distance. Employees who claim a religious basis for discriminating on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identified will be able to
take us back 50 years. Let's just be plain.
Right. And remember when we remember when this gay couple wanted to get married and they wanted a cake.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
y'all remember that. And the owner of the store said that they had a right not to serve them this cake. And what I read was that is one of the rights that's going to
Be targeted.
be targeted, because I think if you're going to go back and we let that go, we can go back to, well, my religious belief says that I shouldn't serve black people. My religious belief says I shouldn't serve Muslims. My religious belief, and then you go to the store. Are we going back to
Absolutely.
signs on the door? We don't serve
Your turn.
whatever.
Yes, you Carol, I mean, that is exactly what they're going to do. When I say we're going to go back 50 years, I'm not exaggerating. We're going to go back 50 years. That's what they want, because they've been kicking and screaming for against every development we've got to hear. Every achievement in terms of civil justice and social justice and equality, there was a side that was angry about it. Well, the side that's angry about it just stacked the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And they're not the same people were angry in 1950, are angry in 1960, are angry in 1970, and this time they've got a 6-3 court. So unless we vote like never before, and we give them a Democratic Senate, a Democratic House, and a Democratic president, that's how we can stop that from having the impact that it could. We have the opportunity to make sure that that choice gets squelched. But the only way that choice gets squelched is if we get a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, and a Democratic president.
Mayor Hawkins.
Then we can mitigate that.
Okay, Mayor Hawkins, in Century, what's happening in Century? What are you doing, or what are some organizations or people doing to ensure that the people of Century come out and vote?
We have a couple organizations that comes up and do early registration. We're doing registration and we're encouraging people to vote. We've had several people that was felons, ex-felons, got their voting rights restored. So there's a lot that's going on here in Century to help people to get out and vote. And one of the things I've done today is people are getting their ballot. And I had a little work session with them as to, we talked about all the issues that was on the ballot.
So that's
you know, and one of the things you know, the Congress can add people to the courts, and that would be my suggestion to once if we win the Senate and the presidency. And I know Senator Feinstein has come out and said she didn't like the idea.
We'll work on her.
Yeah, but the idea, forget about idea, because the Republicans would do it in a drop of a hat,
exactly,
without hesitation,
without a heartbeat of hesitation.
Yeah,
so no, we'll work on Senator Diane. We'll work on
yeah,
her.
Yeah. If not, she need to leave office and go on about her business, you know, retire or something. But the thing about it,
I'm just not real patient with this notion of we live by the rules and they get to do
right.
So
exactly.
I'm not going to do that anymore.
There are
live
no
by the
rules.
sword, die by the sword.
Yeah, there are no rules as far as the GOP is concerned. They care nothing about rules. Anytime you can have a Supreme Court nominee in the middle of an election, people already voting, and you decide that you're gonna make this.
Well, he wants her to rule that vote by mail ballots are unlawful. That's what he wants.
Right. That's what he wants.
He will, like Pam said, he also wants that Supreme. He wants on the Supreme Court
So
when he takes it
what happens if we win by a landslide, but she judges but the Supreme Court decides to kick out all the vote by mail ballots.
Right.
Yeah, but then Joe Biden should take the oath of office anyway. You know, that's my thing. Take the oath of office anyway. You have won the election. Don't let the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court should not serve as a board of directors.
I mean, it's so complicated, Jerry. It is so complicated because then you have the Electoral College and unfaithful electors and all this other stuff. All I can tell you is let's give the Trump administration as few options as possible. And the way that we do that is win the House, win the Senate, win the White House. Quit playing. Quit thinking that your life can't get worse.
Right.
Quit thinking that your life can't get worse, because however bad your life is, there's an ancestor of yours whose life was worse. And somebody wants to take you there.
Right. And that's what Michelle Obama
and
said.
running ads and elections and doing stuff. So
Mhm.
quit that. And I want to finish. I mean, I do have to get off, sadly, because I have another commitment. But I do want to mention that, you know, I don't know if your audience has been paying attention to Twitter, but the New York Times just released Donald Trump's tax return.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
yes. Sure did.
That man paid $750 in taxes.
Yeah.
Like, ever.
Right.
He's
And-
in hundreds of millions of dollars of debt.
Right.
So you don't owe somebody that kind of money and that somebody not be trying to get something out of you.
Right.
Right? I mean, he spent $70,000 on his hair and wrote it off. His hair, 70 grand.
Wow. They said he
He's
had
been cheating the American people all along. It has been a one big giant con from day.
Yes, it sure has been.
And the thing about it, they said he got back $162 million and he paid
He refunded money he never paid in.
Right. He got, 70. Well, one part is 72 point some million dollars. Another one he got $160 million back that he only paid supposedly $150 million for Mar-a-Lago, but you get $160 million back in tax return. Wait a minute.
I'm telling you, the man has been bamboozling America from day one. And the thing is, all of us that are rational are going to be like, "Are you kidding me?" But the people who love him don't care because they only love him for one reason.
Right.
Why?
They love him for one reason. So if you're not attacking that one reason, they don't care about all the other things.
But what is the reason?
White supremacy.
Right.
Jerry says it all the time.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
So as long as he's faithful to that, they're good. If you told him that he was half black, then he would be done.
Yeah.
He'll be done then. I'm all over.
Maybe we ought to start a rumor.
Start that rumor. But time
for me, so for your question about getting out the vote and what's encouraging people, I think we're giving you great candidates to vote for. We're giving you someone that you can rally behind, someone who knows the issues, and someone who's going to help us get over. To succeed. When I said get over, I don't mean any other kind of way, but to succeed. So with that, we really need groups like Black Voters Matter, other get out the vote organizations, people like yourselves who encourage people to do it for us. Now, I can't take people to the polls, but the owner of Joe Morris did say he's going to give us the limousine for that day. So I can do what I can to reach out to other folks, tell them to come out. But I just need to give you somebody you can vote for. I'm definitely qualified and I love my city. So I'm giving you somebody you can vote for. We just need you all to be motivated. When I say you all, people in the audience, be motivated to come vote.
Well, I want to say this and just piggybacking off of what you're saying, is that Move for Change Saturday is going to do We Got the Power. It's a Black Voters Matter Fund, voter registration drive and voter awareness day. And so I want everybody to come out to this event because we are going to give out information in regards to voting, some of the good information you heard tonight. But we will have handouts for you. We will have Black Voters Matters, mask buttons, and everything to get you out. First-time voters will receive a Black Voters Matter T-shirt. Just a lot of fun things, but serious things because this is a serious time. And that'll be Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we're going to have a Black Matters. Well, I keep saying Black Matters. Black Voters Matters caravan. You go around and blowing, and we've got the van. They'll be at Move for Change, and the big bus, the huge bus, will be in Pensacola. We don't know the date soon, but it's coming to Pensacola. It was here before. Remember, Bill? Because Bill became a celebrity.
I loved it. I've got the video saved. I loved it.
Well, get in the new one because it's a new bus this time. And so
I do love Latasha, and I love Latasha. She's
oh gosh, they are awesome.
She's
And so
awesome. And I'm grateful to parlay and talk with her through Florida issues. I want to give a shout out to my friend Phil Ayer, who is running to represent y'all in Congress. Please, please, please vote for Phil. Phil is worthy of your vote. He's worthy of your support. Can he beat Matt Gaetz? Well, if you vote, yes, he can. So please, please, please support Phil. Support all of your Democrats out there. And this time, don't be holding your Democrats to some impossible standard. The guys on the other side are trying to break you. Like, just understand that.
yeah,
They're trying to break you. They're trying to break your community. They're trying to break your church. They're trying to break they're trying to break you. Understand that.
Right.
And vote Democratic and vote. And I'm not saying every Democrat's perfect or every Democrat agrees with everything, but you just need to understand the seriousness of the situation. We need every single person you know to vote. So if you are voting, you be the captain of your family, your team, your network, or your crew, your posse. You get them to vote. Make it your job to make others vote. And do like me. Do your little family, your crew, Zoom vote party.
Right, right.
Put those ballots together.
That's it. Bill, shout out real quick.
Okay, let me shout out to Cindy Martin and read that one more time on those deadlines. Now I'll be slightly briefer. September 24th, vote by mail ballots were mailed October the 5th. Last day to register to vote, October 24th. Last day to request to vote by mail ballot, October 19th. First day of early voting. November 3rd, of course, 7 p.m. vote by mail return deadline. November 3rd, 2020, election day. This election has been projected to be the biggest election in Florida's history. My shout outs tonight go to Miss Jerry Potter, Jerry Bell, Alan Young, and of course the panel here tonight, Tenny Ade, Dr. Rodney Jones didn't make it tonight, but Miss Pam Keith, the Honorable Henry Hawkins, and my mentors, Mr. and Mrs. Jerry McIntosh. Also, I want to remind our viewers that are viewing us on our Facebook stream to send us a check or money order to help us continue to inform and transform here on Our Voices. If you are viewing us on our Facebook stream, send that check or money order to the McIntosh Principle, P.O. Box 1024. Make the check or money order out to the McIntosh Principle, P.O. Box 1024, Cantonment, Florida 32533. If you're viewing us on our web page, the McIntosh Principle, click on that PayPal icon. We ask that you do your best. If it's only $5, fine, thanks. But we ask that you do your best so we can continue to inform and transform. Thank you.
Thank you. Henry Hawkins, shout out. And you want to tell people how they should vote?
I want to shout out the panel. It's been a great discussion. Pam, it's a pleasure meeting you. But listen, let's go out to vote. Please, let's go out to vote. Thank you.
Man, Hawkins is always short and brief. He says a lot. It's really condensed, but he's to the point. A shout out from Tenny Ade.
Well, to the panel, thank you for having me again. I'm shouting out from afar because I know she's not watching, but Margaret, the Holocaust survivor that I met today, and also Teran Black. That brother has been helping me walk these streets. I try to get in, but sometimes those street lights aren't hit. And he's with me, the whole time. He's very, very encouraging, very motivated. That's Teran Black.
Okay, well, thank you. Sometimes you have to recognize people that really help you and have your back. And before Pam goes, a shout out to individuals that made a difference to you.
Hey, I got to shout out Lumen May, and I got to shout out some of the folks that I've met up there in Pensacola with you guys, Ellison Bennett and others that have done such great things for me when I was up there. I think about Jill Lewis and some of the folks that I've met in Fort Walton Beach and a little bit south of you guys. I also want to shout out to both of you. You're doing a wonderful job keeping the community informed and engaged. And I'm always, it's always a delight to be here with you. Even though this is not my turf, we are all one community. When I get to Washington, D.C., I will be representing you too. So you can always help by going to Pam Keith FL. That's KEITH, PamKeithFL.com. That's my website. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, then what I want to say is you all need to really get out and vote. Vote like your life depends on it. And I'm saying it because it does. Your life will depend on it this time. There's no excuses, no reason. And I don't want anyone to come to me and say, I'm not voting because of Joe Biden this or Kamala Harris this. Like Pam said, it's far past that. And like Jerry always says, there's no perfect person. And so we have to vote because, again, our life depends on it. And I want to say this, that if you come out Saturday, Move for Change has developed, and you probably can't see this, but this is the Florida Escambia County resource guide that we've developed. And if you come out, it has all of the pertinent information that you might need to help you remember your voting places, dates, and your polling locations, and all that is in one little booklet. So come out and receive this booklet. Jared?
Yeah, just want to say shout out to a friend in St. Louis, Diane Pruitt, or in Arkansas, or Lacey, which is my sister. Cindy Martin is here. Pat Dunmore in Chicago, and many others that are watching from around the country. We want to thank all of you for watching. As it's been said, this is one of the most important elections of our lifetime. Truly, I know we've said that many times before, but this is the elections of our lifetime. And if we don't do something, we probably will not have a democracy if Trump get back in. I've said over and over again, the country is headed, and it's been headed that way for the last 4 years, under dictatorial power and totalitarian government. If we are not careful, we will lose the right to participate in this democracy. And for anybody to vote for this man at this time, all the things he's done, said, I think the paper has said he's told some 25 lies, or 25,000 lies to the American people. 200,000 people dead because of his lies. You got another, they saying 7 million people that's infected, but the CDC said you have to 10 times that, because that's how you do a scientific statistical evaluation of what, when people want to go out and do a poll. The poll, you poll 100 people, that's 100,000 there saying, this is the way 100,000 people thinking. This is how America thinks. So if we are really, really true to ourselves, that, someone can step over the bodies of all of these people that are dead, and they will not do anything to help the people that need finances in their home, food insecurity. None of those things matter, but we can find time to put somebody on the Supreme Court. We can use that time that's available and put people on the court that are all over. They just put 10 more people on the court just last week.
Right, because they're stacking the courts.
They're stacking the
courts. We're
courts.
going to salvage this country is to get a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate, and a Democratic president. If we get those three things, all of those things can be undone. If we don't, they're going to be hard baked into the next 20, 30, 40 years.
All right.
I want to say this, but before we go, I just found this, and I need to say this. The Escambia Cares Family Emergency Financial Assistance Grant Program will provide eligible households of the county $2,000 in relief aid. Applicants will need to meet application requirements. That's $2,000. And the opening dates will be September 25th through September 29th. Yes. If you want to find out more about the Escambia Cares Financial Assistance Grant Program, go to myescambia.com/ CARES, CARES. That's for family. Now, if you're a business, there's going to be assistant grant program for you coming soon, which will begin October 2nd through October 6th. The qualifications for the Family Assistance Grant Program is just people that have been affected by COVID, whether or not it's personally, let's see, it's just real simple. I even have the application. I can't go to it right now because we don't have the time, but please go. Oh, let me, I have something here. I want to say this. You can do it online or you can apply in person. If you apply in person, you can go to Beulah Senior Citizen Center. You can go to Brownsville Community Center, Carver Park Resource Center, Century Branch Library, Dory Miller Community Center, Ernie Lee Mahahy Government Building, Escambia County Extension Service, Gulf Point Community Center, Marie K. Young Wedgwood Community Center, Molino Community Center, Walnut Hill Community Center, and Woodland Heights Community Center. If you know of someone that has been affected by COVID, and it's not,
Well, they need to know
the
that
qualifications are not strenuous.
They need to, but you need to know that you only have tomorrow and Tuesday. It closes Tuesday, which is the 29th.
Okay, so that's something I thought I would have another qualifications is that your income must be 45,000 or below.
Less.
Here I got through called you have the loss of income or reduction in work hours, loss of secondary income, unexpected and uninsured funeral costs related to COVID-19, increased housing expenses, increased transportation costs for health care, employment, or personal care, increased expenses related to telework, increased expenses for the elderly or disabled, increased expenditures for cleaning, and increased costs of consumables. If you've had any expenses in regards to these things, then apply. Only one person out of the household can apply, but the household will receive $2,000. So that's myescamia.com/cares. Thank you. With that, you all, we're going to say good night to our panelists.
And we want to thank our special guest, Miss Pam Keefe, for I'll say candidate Pam Keefe, who is also running for Congress in the 18th district, and we hope that we know that you're going to win.
And
your lips to God's ears, as we say, keep up those prayers lifted. I'm a woman of God, and I believe that in Him all things are possible. So let's do it.
All right then. Thank you all so much. You all have a wonderful evening and good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right.